Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and not a random destruction like I said it was going to be yesterday. Wargaming have put the E25 on the store. It seems that they are absolutely intent on bankrupting me, but I've stuck my hand in my pocket and I've spent my money, so you guys don't have to. You'll be able to watch this and see if you actually want to spend the, well, it's not too much gold on it, but it is still quite pricey. So what is it? It's a Hetzer on crack, I would have said. It's very small. I mean, let's pop the Hetzer up. There's the Hetzer, and the Hetzer is not a big tank. There's the E25, so it is small, it is sneaky, it is fast, not particularly well armoured, and yeah, it's kind of like a German ninja, or that sneaky little bastard, as, I think I will come to call it when I come up against them. It just tears around the battlefield, and you camp up. Well, there's a couple of ways you can play it. I've actually got one where my first game, and there were a couple of other guys in E25s, and we sort of went around as a bunch, and you can just tear things apart with the rate of fire. But let's have a look at some of the basic stats first. Well, armour, not particularly well armoured. You're not going to be bouncing loads of shots in this. You could probably bounce them off the gun mantle, or if you're using the gun depression isn't too bad actually in this. It's quite pleasantly surprised. But you're looking at basic stats: 50 on the front, 30 on the sides, and again 30 on the rear. But it's not got a particularly powerful gun, but the rate of fire is phenomenal. So let's have a quick look at that. Right, well, 20 rounds a minute, and as you can see, it's a 7.5cm Pak 42 L70, which is one of the guns on the flat Panzer, the Panzer IV. Is it the Panzer IV? The tank destroyer version at tier 6, and I think it's the top gun on the Stug 3G, or one of the top guns, should I say. Now this is a tier 7, but it does get premium matchmaking, so it will never see higher than tier 8. But unlike the Stug, which has a rate of fire around 13, and I think on the Panzer it's about 15, this has a rate of fire of 20. Now penetration 150, damage 135, which isn't too savage, I think. I want to say that's the same as the Panther. Well, the Crafts Panther's got the same gun, yeah, so it's the same as the Panther, but that gets a rate of fire of 12, but it does have a lot higher penetration. So back to this one. Premium ammunition gets 194 penetration, and your HE is 38 and 75. I'll be honest, I've not bothered with HE in this. I just don't think it's worth it. Very good aiming time of 1.5 seconds, and a damn good accuracy actually at 0.30. That is very good. Hull traverse is 44 degrees a second, and your gun traverse is also 44 degrees, and it does have a fairly decent gun arc on the front as well. View range is 360 meters and a 710 meter signal range. Now 360 meters doesn't sound a lot, but let's just have a look at some of the others around the tier. Yeah, Jagdpanzer 4, that's the one. I couldn't remember the name. Right, so Störemil gets a view range of 400 meters, but it is an open top vehicle, and they do tend to have a higher view range. The Jagdpanther 1 gets a view range of 370 meters. So considering that the Jagdpanther is a much taller tank, as you can see, and this one being such low profile, the low profile ones do tend to have much worse view range. Not every time, but you know, they do tend to. So at 360 meters is not too bad. Now I bought the base pack. We'll go and have a look at the prices in a minute, and it comes with binocular telescopes and a camouflage net, which is nice. Well, it's not the base loaded. It doesn't come with a tank gun rammer, but I've stuck that on there. But let's just have a look at the actual price. Now, hopefully Wargaming will see this video and give me a bloody break for a little bit on buying these tanks. But let's have a look. Now, 9,000 gold for the fully loaded. You get the typical things like the crew, you get a garage slot, you get 7 days of premium. You don't get an ASOP, but you do get 3 × 2 boost ops, and you get the binocular telescope, you get the camouflage net, and you get the tank gun rammer, and the usual mix of shells. Now, the loaded one, which I went for, you get the binocular telescope and the camouflage net. You don't normally get 2 with that. You get the garage slot, you get 3 days of premium, usual mix of shells, and a crew. Now, the reason I say it's a little bit pricey, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm looking at the Tankopedia, and on the Tankopedia, the base cost of this tank is 6,700 gold, so at 8,200. That is a little bit on the pricey side, but this is the first time that we're seeing this on PlayStation 4. You guys on Xbox have had it for a while, and somebody asked about this in the Battle Heroes, and basically Wargaming said, we don't know why it's not on the PS4 yet. So here it is a week or two later, so they did pull the finger out and they got it on here. But I do think that the 8,200 or whatever it was, compared to 6,700, to me that's quite a big difference. You know, I'm not dissing Wargaming, they are a business at the end of the day, and it's a free-to-play game, they've got to make the money somewhere. But I'd have been happier if we'd have seen this at around 7,200 with a piece of equipment, something like that. But anyway, let's have a look at some of the details on it. Right, so, reload time 3 seconds, which is brilliant. It really is. You can put out a lot of shells in this. You do have to learn when to fall back, though. That is something you're going to have to figure out in this. It is a sort of fight or flight tank, and there's a couple of instances where you could possibly, I mean, I'll show you in one of the replays I think I'm going to use. It was towards the end of the match. I had full health still. I knew I was going to take one hit from the guy, but I could afford it, and I knew that one hit was all he was going to get, and it was going to take me about 3 to put one back into him. Very big engine. Well, I say a big engine, it's a small tank, so the engine does take up a lot of space in it. The whole back of the tank, basically. So if you want to damage the engine, and that will cripple one of these things, damaged engine or a dead driver, and it takes away its speed. Quite a long gun, and I do apologise. I forgot to turn my phone onto silent again, so you've probably just heard that. Tracks, again, don't seem to be any gaps in the tracks. So you might get lucky and they might eat a couple of shots with that. Radio on the right hand side of the tank. Ammunition, a nice block towards the front of the tank, so if you're wanting to damage the ammo and you're on the you've got the right side of the tank, then you want to be going for the front of the tracks just towards the top, or straight through the lower plate if you can get it. And on the other side of the tank is up high on the left hand side, just under that little machine gun turret on the top, so that's a good indicator as to where to try and hit the ammo rack. Aim underneath that gun turret and there's a good chance you're going to hit the ammo rack on there. Crew members all squashed in. Now you'll notice I've got a premium medikit on or first aid kit on my tank, because generally if you get hit in this it does tend to knock a crew member out, and since I've put the premium first aid kit on, that has helped out quite a bit. Now concealment, very sneaky tank. 74, which is a very good concealment, 44 when it's stationary and 26 when it's moving. There are light tanks that are jealous of that. And I think that's about it for those stats. Oh, sorry, I did forget the power to weight ratio, I do apologise. Right, 65 km/h top speed, which is very good. 20 km/h in reverse, which is about as high as you can get. 700 horsepower engine, which gives this little light tank destroyer a 26.97 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which is fantastic, and it does power itself across the battlefield at quite a rate. Now, armour wise, like we said, 50, 30, 30. Well, the top, as you would expect, is very weak. So, and to be honest, I mean, if RT hits you anywhere on this, there's a good chance it's going to penetrate. So do be very RT conscious in it. 21 to 30, you've got the sides, you've got the machine gun turret on the top, the rear, and the tracks, which will give you a small amount of spaced armour. Now, something I've not mentioned about the sides, they are quite well angled above the tracks. I've not really been hit in that place yet. Generally I'm going to get hit, well, I've been hit in the front or the back, but I'd say if you're up against lower tiered targets, there's a good chance that you could actually get a bounce off the side with the angle in there, so that's something to think about. 31 to 50, well, you've got your big chunky gun mantle on the front, which, like I say, you could probably bounce a few shots off because you've got a couple of layers to go through. You've also got the front of the tank, which hasn't got a bad angle on it. It's not the best I've seen, but it's not bad. The lower plate, though, is very well angled, so again, you might get the odd bounce off that, but definitely do not rely on it. And then you do have a small piece, 71 to 90, which is a ring just around the gun mantle. Gameplay wise, well, you want to be basically bush camping. You can use a lot of low ridges in the ground and just poke over and use your sort of, like I say, quite good, not excellent, but quite good gun depression to poke over and put a few shots out, and then towards the end of the match you can really tear it around, just finishing off enemies. Yeah, I think that's about it, to be honest. Oh, ammunition costs, again, nearly forgot. Do you know, I think I might get through a review and not forget anything in the garage. Right. Standard armor piercing ammunition, 109 per shell. Your armor piercing composite rigid APCR is 2,800 per shell, and your high explosive is 98 per shell. Equipment wise, I don't know. You see, I've got the binocular telescope, I've got the camouflage net, I've got the medium caliber tank gun rammer. There is an argument possibly that you don't need the gun rammer. I wouldn't say you need a gun lane drive on it, to be honest. You could possibly swap the gun rammer out for vents, maybe just improve the overall performance of the machine. You could possibly, excuse me, get away with taking the binocular telescopes off and putting coated optics on, but I don't really think it'd suit the playstyle too much personally, but I don't know. Personal preference. You could mess about with it a little bit and see what works for you. Crew skills, well, I've just stuck my Panther crew in. They're not a particularly well trained crew, to be perfectly honest. My Yag Panther crew, sorry. I've got 6th Sense on it and I'm training up camouflage. And again, that's the sort of stuff you want for the crew skills: 6th Sense, camouflage, muffled shot, maybe green thumb, that sort of thing. Really increase your camo factor as much as you can. Silent running, possibly a good one, but I'm not too sure. Anyway, let's get into the gameplay. Let's see how this thing handles. But just before we do that, I think I've got to say this is possibly the most fun tank destroyer that I've played personally. It's not going to be for everybody because it is, you know, more or less paper armoured, but it's certainly fun. So let's get into it. Right, so here we are. It's Northwest. It's a standard battle and it's a tier 7 match, I think it is. I will check in a moment. Now, I didn't make it through a review without forgetting something. I forgot the silver and the XP bonus. Again, 30% for the silver, 20% for the XP bonus. And while I'm sort of getting into position here, something I did want to mention again is the concealment of this. I know I said it was 44 stationary, sorry, 0.44 stationary and 0.26 on the move. Now, to put that into perspective, the tier 7 light tank, the T71, that has a concealment of 0.25 while stationary and 0.25 while on the move. So this has better, a better camouflage rating than a tier 7 light tank, and this is a tank destroyer. Now that also raises the question, which a lot of people are asking at the minute, what's the point of light tanks at the moment in this game? Because I've had, well, I mean, I've been more effective as a scout in this than I have been in my light tanks recently. I mean, because this is fast. I mean, it's as fast as a light tank. It's got decent view range. I mean, especially if you fitted it with some coated optics instead of binoculars, it'd make a good active scout. And it's got a better camouflage rating, both stationary and a way better one stationary and slightly better, only by a touch, on the move, but it's still better. And I think Wargaming have, from what I've sort of seen and read, I think they have acknowledged that they need to do something about the light tanks to give them back that scouting role. I'm going to go to work on the Tiger, but I've been hit, so that's the time to pull back. Now, since recording the garage bit, I have actually had some bouncers off the front of this. Granted, they were from lower tiers, but you know it's there, and it can happen. I think it was a tier 7 match, and it was very sort of heavily in my favour. You know, being a tier 7, I think there were 2 tier 7s per team, and the rest were tier 6s and 5s. And I had some bouncers from tier 5s, not up close, they were at range, but not too far away. Now I'm going to try and go to work on this T29, but I knocked the stick and moved it from the weak spot, and now I can't seem to find it again. So I'm just going to keep putting some shots out. There we go. But yeah, I don't know what it is with the lights at the minute. I like my light tanks. And recently, that's the T29 dealt with. Not by me, somebody else got the kill though. There's the SU-85 again. I don't know where that one went. But yeah, I like my light tanks, but recently, I don't know, they're just... Like I said before, there doesn't seem much point in playing them almost. When you've got mediums, and now a tank destroyer that can do their job probably just as well, if not better in some cases, with the mediums, because they've got more health. And with the way that a lot of the maps are set up, well, it's, you know, by the time you spot the enemy in a light tank, with a lot of the maps, not all of them, but they can spot you anyway because of the sort of corridor nature of it, you know, with the valleys and everything else. So I think it'd be interesting to see what Wargaming actually do to give lights back their scouting role, if they actually do anything at all. But hopefully they will. Right. I've decided that there's not much that I can do at that point, that location. We've got a couple of heavies up there fighting with the others. We've got another one that looks to be on his way, and down on the eastern side of the map, about halfway down, we've got somebody basically shouting for help, because I think they've got at least 2 tanks at them at the same time. But that's what I like about the E25. You're fast enough to get back there and help them out. I mean, just look at the speed of this thing. And it's really quite nippy going up hills as well. I just popped up there because I wasn't quite sure where they were, and I wondered if we'd get a shot at them from up that way. But I can't, so I'm going to come round the back of them and see if I can put some shots in behind. But he's managed to deal with one, or some of the other guys that have turned up have. And there's a VK3601. I'm just going to lock on, fire on the move, and keep going. So that's that side of the map secured again, and now there's not much left apart from Arty, tank destroyer, which has just popped up on the map, and so is Arty, and then there's 2 heavies, and both of those heavies are up in the northwestern corner. And I've used this one. I did have another one that I was going to use where I think I did a bit more damage in it, but I've used this one to sort of show you some of the aspects of it. I mean, it shows you its camouflage rating from the fact that I was putting shots out a couple of things and they had no clue where I was, and also it shows the speed, and it was a good fun round for me, this one. I know I've been throwing that word around a lot for a few tanks recently, fun, like the Locust and what have you, but you know, I just didn't realise that this was going to be this much fun, and like I said, I think it's the most fun I've had in a tank destroyer. Because it almost, I don't know, it almost plays like a light. We were saying it's like a Hetzer and a light tank have had a baby, and then this is what's come out. It is quite a unique tank destroyer in a way. Well, actually no, now I've said that, thinking on it, I suppose there is the Hellcat as well, but that's got a turret. But it's not got the rate of fire of this. And it's that rate of fire that just gets people. I mean, if you're hidden somewhere in cover and you manage to track a tank, it's not going to get those tracks back up ever, and you're just going to keep chipping away at it until it's dead. Now, this is the bit I was on about in the garage. I haven't got full health. I was actually mistaken. I sneak up behind the KV-85 and just start putting the shots in, and I know he's going to hit me, but I can take the hit and I knew that that'd be the only one that he'd actually get. And now, like I say, you'll notice I've got the premium first aid kit on there. The first few matches I had a standard one, and it just seemed to be, I don't know if it was just bad luck, but it just seemed that every time I got hit in this, anywhere in the front, or the front half of the tank, a crew member got injured. And since I've put the premium first aid kit on, it has happened since then, but not nearly as much. I mean, it was every match I had for about, well, I say 4 or 5 matches, not really a lot, but you know, 4 or 5 matches in a row where you're getting crew members knocked out every time you get hit. Like I said, I don't know if that was bad luck or what, but I've put the premium first aid kit on and it has helped a lot. Now I've come zipping back up because we're already capping, but there was the T29 left, and I thought, do you know what, I want to farm a bit more damage. So I just go straight at him, locked on, firing on the move. Ooh, that one bounced. So I start pulling back a little bit, got a bit confident. I'm expecting to take a hit from him, and there it is. But even though it looks like he's got the 90mm on, I'll get those 2 shots off before he even reloads. And that is what I love about the E25, it's that rate of fire. It's not a very powerful gun, you know, it's not got the best penetration either, but the rate of fire is phenomenal. But I finished that one off with a second class mastery, 2358 XP and 2395 damage done. And I think it does, yeah, 135 per shot on average. 35 shot fired, 21 hit but only 20 penetrated. I think a lot of those were against that T29 at the beginning, and then that one last one at the end where I was just going at him, firing on the move. But it is a nice little tank destroyer, I do have to admit. Right, so this is the last of the replays tonight. Only 2 on this one because both of them were a little bit long. And again, it's a tier 7 match, and it's on Heilbronn, a standard battle. So this is the new map. I've been on this a few times now. Been into the town, in the Gorinich, in the KV4, I think it was, and I've been a little bit out in the fields and the hills on this side of the map, but not much. I think it was 1 match in T95 and I didn't get particularly far. Not T95, Type 95, that's the one. Japanese low tier heavy. So I've not really explored this part of the map. So I was just wondering whether to set up there, but I thought, do you know what, that's a bit too close to base, so I'm going to push out a bit. But this one, I've put this match on because it shows the potential that this has got for a scout and for getting spotting assisted damage. Whoop. So I've come out for a bit of a spot, and basically just to have an explore to see if I can find a good place, because I've not really been on this map, like I say. And I get a bit carried away, get a bit too far up. What I must admit, I wasn't paying full attention to the map and where I was just sort of looking around a bit. And you've probably done it yourself when you've been on a new map. But yes, I did run into that light tank and took a hit early on. I think, was it a T37? So, broke contact, and you can see, I mean, as soon as I was out of his line of sight almost, I popped off the radar and I was gone, and I did not get spotted again. And that's just something I love about this tank. It does seem to pop off radar quite quickly because it's got that good camouflage rating, and like I say, you can just stay hidden. You try and spot the enemy or get other people to spot it, and you just go to town with that rate of fire. 3002M over there. I don't know where that one went. I'm going to say, I've told you it's a very accurate gun, and then I keep missing. Although I'd probably put that down to me some of the time. Right, we've got a hammer. Now, range, sometimes it's a bit tricky to get through the front of like Tigers and Hammers with this penetration. It's 150 with the standard ammo. It's not too bad, you know, you aim for the flat part with the driver's hatches and you should get through most of the time, and it's accurate enough to hit it most of the time. And I've got to be honest, I don't think I've actually fired any premium ammunition in this yet. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've not had to, because it's accurate enough to basically hit weak spots. So you can see we started punishing that Steyr meal, and you can also see my spotting assist building up quite nicely. The only downside to these non-turreted tank destroyers is every time you sort of move to retrack a target that's just out of your gun arc, obviously binoculars and your camouflage net drop down as well. Now, I am bouncing off that Panther. He's sort of wiggling about a bit and it keeps angling his armour. So it was bouncing off the front of that, but it is quite well angled. But the odd one was going through. But like I say, because of him wiggling back and forth, it sort of kept changing the angles. And that was the enemy E25. He did get spotted, unfortunately. Managed to get a couple of hits in on him. Now, like I say, this is sort of more the other style, you know, camping in a bush, because you've not got the best armour. It's not like you're a T28 concept, for example. That's just because I know there's one in this match in a bit. When you've got the armour, you can get in there and you can take the hits. You know, you can bounce the shots. In this, you can't. You use your speed and your stealth to ambush people, and then, like I say, towards the end, when they're on very low health, you use your speed and your stealth to basically sneak up and ninja people. Now, there's that light tank sneaking about again. And I think it's at this point I've been considering sort of relocating. But the light tanks just keep popping up. Excuse me. T-37's dealt with. There's the enemy E25 again. So I'm going to let it aim and just start putting shots at him. And he's going to back off and try and get back into cover. And it'll not take him long to get back into cover. Even reversing, like I say, it does 20. Which is quite good. I think that's probably the top reverse speed. I don't think there's anything that goes faster than that backwards. And me taking a hit, yeah, that's my sign that I've overstayed my welcome in that spot, and it's time to move on. So I do decide to relocate, and I'm just wondering where to go. I think I try and get round on that 3601H. Oh, he's got a friend though, so I'm going to have to be careful. Yeah, I've been spotted. Nothing can hit me quite here though. Well, he could if he decided to turn and look this way. Nope, he's dropping back down below the ridge. AT7 disappearing back over the ridge, and luckily he didn't decide to shoot at me. He could have finished me off very quickly. But it's so small that just a sort of bit of a lip between me and those enemy tanks, the 360H, and whatever else was down there was enough to just hide me from them. And the AMX 12T thinks, no, bugger that, I'm going to pull back. And when you've got a gun that can almost outshoot an auto-loader, you know you're onto a good thing. I don't have to reload after 6 shots. He does. Right, so I know the 12T is still over there. We've got the T28 concept down that way. Now I don't want to be getting into a frontal engagement with him, because that will not end well for me, especially when I'm on low health. So yeah, I'm going to have to be a bit cautious now, and he'd seen me, so that's time to get out of there. But again, with your speed, you can just get the hell out of there. As soon as you're spotted, just go. Either forwards, backwards, whichever way. It's a shame this hasn't got a turret, because you could go into a position backwards and then you're just ready to steam off when anything spots you. But I'm going to come right round on him, because I'm fast enough. And that's what I like about this. You know, you get spotted one side, you break contact, you drop back, and you're that quick, you can just basically do a full loop around them and flank them from the other way. Especially something like a T28 concept, or, you know, prototype, etc. Or some of the bigger, slower heavies. On some of these maps, you can just get the hell out of there. and you've got enough cover just with a few bumps in the ground for them not to be able to hit you, and like I say, for you to just be able to flank all the way back round the other side of them. Try and get into a position where you can see them and they can't see you, and then just go to town on them again. Right, 2 tank destroyers and the 12T left. I'm going to go and try and take down that 12T, and I'm estimating that it's possibly going to take 1 hit. But I'm going to have to be careful because I can only take 1 more hit. And there he is, and he's gone again. Right, and now he knows I'm here. But somebody else takes him out. I get some assist damage for it, so that's not too bad. I'm happy with that, at least to get a bit of XP. Right, so now we've just got the 2 tank destroyers left. There's the enemy E25, who we were shooting at earlier. He's, well, it doesn't surprise me that he's at the other side of the map. I know how fast these are. And I think there's a Stera Emil left. And it's just basically a matter of time to see whether I actually get across there to do a bit more damage. And while I'm doing that, I'll just summarise. So, it's a very sneaky, very quick, quite lightly armoured, low profile tank destroyer with a sort of average pen, I'd say, for a tier 7 medium. Lowish damage, I think. I think the Panther's got one of the lowest damage at tier 7 for the mediums. But an incredible rate of fire, and it is so sneaky. You can't emphasise that enough. And as you can see there, can do a light tank's job just as well as a light tank. Got a patrol duty and a Confederate out of that. Just over 100 grand, although I think some of that did come from an op. 1400 base XP, just over, so I don't know what you guys are doing in them. But yeah, I've not got a first class yet, and that's with the 1400. That'd be at least a first class on some other tanks. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful for you. Now you can make up your mind over the E25. And as always, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.